Hello, welcome to another video about world religions. Today we're going to discuss an interesting group that has been quite talked about in the media lately. It's called Allatra. Maybe you've heard such media headlines about it being a pro-Russian dangerous conspiracy sect, and I thought to myself, if I'm going to get involved like this, of course I'll look at it and somehow try to assess what's especially dangerous about it. The reason why is that my mom and me, she had already sent a video several times that was related to the ace of things, and it was, of course, from Allatra. When I explained to her that it was some kind of connection, she was surprised because she hadn't seen it on that channel. I thought that it could happen to quite a lot of people, so if you don't know what to believe in the media, you can of course look it up for yourself, but I'll try to point you in the direction of some of the reasons why I think Allatra can be a dangerous sect, and for me I will try to divide it up. Most of the critics focus on these three aspects, which I will analyze. They look at all of them as very critical, and I personally maybe partially too, but in order to be objective, I will try to divide it into areas that are not problematic from the point of view of sectarianism. It's just not sectarian, then some things that are more like they are, but it's such a question at the same time. A person's worldview and then the features, which I think are clearly sectarian. That's important because that's what we have to focus on. The first level is of course an organization called an open society. It's a sort of alternative spiritual group that connects with a lot of doctors and so on. And it's not so strange because the supposed founder of Allatra is a man named Igor Danilov, who he was a chiropractor in the 90s. He not only used his medical training, but also incorporated various New Age methods into his treatment and had success with it. He was very Christian oriented, but at that time it was really hardcore and quite Christian oriented. He was convinced that he was the reincarnation of some Christian monk, and so on, and only with the passage of time, as the situation actually developed, did his attitude to life take on different directions, which then relate to the second part, that component. It is simply everywhere. And I don't want to criticize it somehow because a lot of people like it, and I partly like it too, and partly I'm also critical of it. Just how in which areas, so I think that in itself, that it uses some esoteric New Age tricks. Energy, working with energy has all these things these days. It's not sectarian, it's just alternative spirituality, and that's probably what attracts most people to it. Yeah, the problem, of course, is that it's connected with some skepticism about COVID and so on. Thanks to that, my mom actually sent me a Spikova video, which I used to play for a while, and it wasn't exactly like mega crazy. It was just like, I don't know if she thought about whether they were aliens and so on. So clearly, whenever you talk about it publicly, you look a bit like a fool, but she didn't talk like a complete fool. Yeah, that's just the component. People will look at it and say there's nothing dangerous. Why do they say it's a sect? That's maybe some suppression of our alternative opinion. That's already dangerous. Yes, well, but this open society, it's actually just an outer cover with which, like most religious organizations or even sects, they try to lure someone interested. Yes, the inner parts. It is precisely the Allatra movement from which they actually release the videos quite often. But only Allatra, when you actually delve more into the inside, then suddenly the strongly religious themes are heard. That's already in the first part, right? The question of aliens and so on, but only in the second layer will you learn about the global political conspiracy context, which is probably just as it is actually directed for the newcomer. So it was probably in a similar way in life of Igor Danilova, because he actually first started with this year's ISA, Christian mysticism, New Age. I don't know what he tried, and only later did he actually start to be very skeptical of the market mechanisms of the West and everything around here.